All right, hi. My name is Arush Gupta to be in full. Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that has been on my mind for a really long time. I've titled it "Struggling in the Job Market: The Over-Reliance on Robotic Competence." So, this video essay explores, from a complex systems perspective, the growing shift from human competence, the ability to learn and grow within a role, to robotic competence, where employees are expected to be immediately productive from day one. The key topics include how corporate instability is driving short-term hiring practices, the declining value of degrees and the mismatch between education and employment, the paradox of competence, where early specialization clashes with long-term adaptability, and the role of social media in reshaping the hiring process into a rejection-first market. With job security decreasing and hiring standards rising, companies now prioritize efficiency over stability, leaving workers to navigate an increasingly competitive and uncertain labor market. So I'll give you the short version. The short version is the following. The job market has shifted from valuing human competence, which is learning and adaptability, to robotic competence, which is immediate efficiency. Companies, pressured by short-term profitability and investor demands, now prioritize job-ready specialists over long-term employee development. Corporate instability has eroded job security, with mass layoffs affecting even highly profitable firms. Education's role in hiring is declining. Degrees no longer guarantee jobs, yet elite credentials still act as soft filters. Social media and global hiring have made recruitment hyper-competitive, leading to paradoxical expectations, requiring extensive experience for entry-level roles, whilst offering little stability or career growth. Hiring has become more about filtering out candidates than fostering mutual investment, leaving workers in a cycle of uncertainty and constant upskilling. So that was the short version of it. And here goes the long version. So I define competence in two ways. Human competence is the ability to learn and improve over time. It's not just about performing a task, but mastering it through experience. Some learn faster than others, creating a natural hierarchy. Those who quickly refine their skills rise to the top, while others take longer to reach the same level. Robotic competence is the ability to perform a task efficiently from the start, from the get-go, prioritizing immediate execution over learning. It creates a hierarchy where those with existing expertise rise to the top, while those needing development are undervalued. For decades, hiring seemed to be based on human competence, the ability to grow within a role. Employers seemed to value intelligence, adaptability, and problem-solving ability, even if candidates needed time to ramp up. However, in today's job market, the emphasis has shifted to robotic competence, where employees are expected to be immediately productive from day one. This shift is primarily driven by corporate instability, as companies face mounting pressure from competitive credit markets and the growing emphasis on short-term performance metrics. With the increasing uncertainty of long-term viability, many businesses rely on loans, venture capital, or credit lines to stay afloat, compelling them to pursue immediate profitability to satisfy investors and lenders. Failure to meet these expectations often results in reduced funding, prompting cost-cutting measures, layoffs, or even closures. While corporate giants are not facing the same existential challenges as smaller companies, they remain subject to similar pressures, such as investor expectations and market volatility. These firms prioritize short-term productivity by leveraging global hiring trends and focusing on specialized expertise to ensure immediate returns. At the same time, they assess candidates' ability to withstand the demanding high-pressure work culture. Despite this, they continue to invest in long-term talent development through robust training programs for new recruits. However, the risk remains largely with the employee. Job security is uncertain, and layoffs can occur at any time, even for high performance. Hence, laid-back jobs are now seen as rare, referring to the more stable 9-to-5 positions that once existed in a time long gone. As a result, businesses are increasingly reluctant to invest in long-term employee developments, opting instead to hire fully trained specialists specialists while offering limited job security, pensions, or career advancement opportunities. By prioritizing immediate efficiency over organizational stability, companies shift the risk onto employees, engaging them on short-term contract-based durations, maintaining stagnant wages, and eliminating traditional pathways for career growth. This dynamic fosters a labour market that values short-term productivity over long-term skill development, perpetuating an unsustainable cycle of uncertainty for workers. Mass layoffs are no longer exclusive to struggling companies. Even highly profitable corporations are cutting jobs in pursuit of short-term efficiency. These reductions are often driven by shifting investor priorities rather than financial necessity, illustrating how corporate instability now extends beyond failing businesses to even the most successful firms. Startups, particularly those reliant on venture capital funding, also contribute to this instability. Aggressive hiring during periods of financial influx is often followed by mass layoffs when funding dries up. Rapid expansion is often fueled by external investment rather than sustainable business models. This leads to unpredictable hiring patterns where employees face abrupt terminations as soon as investor sentiment shifts. Sorry, just a second, I'm getting a sneeze. Right, so the gig economy further reinforces this instability. Companies that rely on the gig economy, they rely heavily on independent contractors, minimizing commitments to employee benefits, job security, and career development. And whilst this model provides operational flexibility for businesses, it leaves workers in a precarious position, trapped in temporary roles with few opportunities for long-term growth or financial stability. Since firms are empowered to hire individuals who meet immediate needs, they have little incentive to invest in employees they intend to retain for the long haul. This creates a vicious feedback loop, with companies increasingly focused on robotic competence, to the detriment of long-term development and employee well-being. There has also been a huge erosion of faith in formal education as a pathway to employment. Traditional degrees once served as a proxy for human competence, signaling a person's ability to learn and adapt over time. But as companies demand job-ready candidates with highly specific skills and focus on immediate productivity, degrees alone have become insufficient. Graduates now find themselves constantly chasing certifications and training programs just to keep up with ever-evolving job descriptions, further deepening their anxiety and uncertainty about the future. Meanwhile, the cultural weight of academic pedigree still persists, creating a soft eligibility filter where attending a top school is less about proving robotic competence and more about leveraging human competence as social capital just to open doors. However, this elevation in status matters less as job security erodes. Over the past 2 to 3 decades, the risk of redundancy has been rising. As the job market shifts further toward a gig economy model, human competence is losing relevance, replaced by a system that prioritizes immediate utility over long-term potential, undermining traditional seniority hierarchies. These hierarchies once made sense when companies valued long-term learning and growth, even if they were never perfect representations of human competence. The traditional belief that a college degree guarantees job security is fading. While tech giants have publicly stated that degrees are not required for employment, hiring patterns tell a different story. In reality, these companies continue to prioritize candidates from elite institutions, reinforcing existing hierarchies while maintaining the illusion of accessibility. This contradiction reveals the shifting role of degrees, not as a definitive requirement, but as a soft eligibility filter that still holds significant weight in high-profile hiring decisions. Beyond tech, inflated job qualifications are becoming the norm across industries. Entry-level positions now demand years of experience and specialized skills that were once learned on the job. In journalism, for example, aspiring writers are often expected to have multiple internships and portfolios rivaling those of mid-career professionals. Same as the case for PhD admissions. Like, there are lots of noise, especially in in this particular fall for the PhD cycle in the US, that a lot of people were screaming that even to get a PhD, you need one more PhD just to get a PhD. So even administrative assistant roles frequently require a bachelor's degree, proficiency in specialized software, and extensive industry knowledge, making it increasingly difficult for new graduates to break into the workforce. The problem is not just the system's expectations, it's that they fundamentally conflict. These expectations clash with the conditions humans need to work efficiently, such as purpose and stability, while also contradicting each other. Professionally, we're expected to be robotically competent, yet culturally we're still judged by college degrees that signal human competence. The implicit belief is that robotic competence secures a job, but human competence allows you to keep it. However, if you're too humanly competent but lack robotic competence, employers may see you as a short-term investment, someone who will quickly outgrow the role and move on. Conversely, someone with robotic competence but less human adaptability may be seen as a more stable long-term hire. This creates a paradox. Those who excel in human competence often struggle with robotic competence early in their careers. Ideally, human competence is about learning how to learn, developing as a generalist who can adapt to new challenges. Since the brain continues developing until age 25, early education should focus on broad learning abilities. In contrast, prioritizing robotic competence means mastering a single skill to the point of specialization. While this makes candidates immediately employable, it often comes at the cost of not developing the ability to learn and pivot over time. As a result, young people are forced into a relentless game of strategic self-positioning, orienting their skills according to market forces rather than genuine interests or strengths. Instead of contributing to society in meaningful ways, they are preoccupied with getting ahead, despite a lack of clear structures that facilitate stable, symbiotic employer-employee relationships. This instability, combined with the expectation to specialize too early before their cognitive development is even complete, leaves many feeling confused and disillusioned about the job market. This is not just bad for individuals, it's detrimental to companies as well. Imagine if businesses prioritized building positive relationships with employees rather than treating them as disposable assets or worse, financial instruments. What if workers stayed not just because of profit margins, but because they genuinely enjoyed working with their employers? A system built on mutual investment and dedication would benefit both sides far more than the current cycle of instability and short-term efficiency. Then there's the issue of office politics. Many employees struggle with toxic workplace dynamics, but instead of getting proper support, they're forced to either endure dysfunctional relationships with colleagues and bosses or actively engage in office politics to stay afloat. Some do it just to survive, whilst others exploit it to climb the corporate ladder. This highlights a deeper issue. Corporate hierarchies are another form of robotic competence hierarchies. If you excel at office politics, you advance. If you don't, you risk stagnation or getting pushed out entirely. This brings us back to the point about recruiters constantly checking for conformity to office political culture under the guise of stress testing during interviews. Toxic work environments aren't just a byproduct of individual personalities. They're often deeply ingrained in company culture. In July 2021, Activision Blizzard faced a lawsuit alleging a pervasive frat boy culture where female employees experienced systemic harassment and discrimination. Time reported that the company's dismissive response led to employee walkouts, underscoring how corporate culture can be weaponized against workers rather than supporting their growth. Similarly, reports on Amazon's warehouse conditions have shed light on extreme performance pressures and high turnover rates. Employees are expected to meet grueling efficiency metrics, often at the expense of their physical and mental well-being. These workplace dynamics reveal a troubling pattern. Rather than fostering long-term development, many companies prioritize maintaining rigid hierarchies that reward endurance over meaningful contribution. Maybe it's time to acknowledge that the workplace socio-political environment itself needs psychological evaluation, rather than placing all the scrutiny on a new hire who knows nothing about office politics, particularly at that particular office, in that particular office. Companies expect employees to perform under pressure without ever questioning whether that pressure is necessary, or if their selection bias simply favors those who can endure it, keeping the cycle going regardless of its actual value. The proliferation of social media and professional networking platforms like LinkedIn has had a big part to play in dramatically reshaping this hiring landscape. What was once a job opening visible to 100 people in a town of 2,000 is now accessible to hundreds of thousands across the country regardless of location. With the expectation that top-tier talent will inevitably apply, whether through referrals, job sharing, or sheer necessity, companies are less inclined to compromise. The hiring process has become increasingly asymmetrical, with decision-making power concentrated in the hands of employers, creating a one-sided market. Rather than investing in workforce development, businesses now demand unrealistic combinations of expertise, leading to paradoxical expectations, such as requiring 5+ years of experience for entry-level positions. Meanwhile, social media has also exacerbated the anxiety surrounding the job search. Platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok have become spaces where professionals share their struggles. Viral posts frequently highlight experiences of submitting hundreds of applications without a single response. Some job seekers admit to embellishing their resumes or tailoring their online personas to match corporate expectations, illustrating the growing desperation in an increasingly competitive market. In response to financial insecurity, job seekers are applying en masse to various positions, often without regard for their qualifications, believing that the volume of applications improves their chances of securing employment, like throwing darts on a board. This influx of applications has led employers to develop an inflated sense of selectivity, prompting them to raise job requirements and seek highly specialized candidates without offering commensurate compensation. This specialization does little to improve candidates' chances of better pay, as companies prioritize efficiency driven by market forces. This creates a vicious feedback loop. As companies set unrealistic expectations, job seekers panic and engage in unstructured upskilling, taking on certifications and courses to stay competitive. However, this only reinforces some employers' beliefs that highly skilled workers are abundant and easily replaceable. As hiring standards continue to rise, workers are left feeling permanently unqualified, whilst businesses paradoxically struggle to find the perfect hire. Rather than serving as the start of a mutually beneficial relationship, the hiring process has increasingly become a rejection filter. Companies now focus on eliminating risky candidates and select the most ideal worker, someone who delivers immediate short-term value rather than fostering long-term growth and collaboration. This mindset discourages investment in employee development, erodes workplace stability, and fuels a culture of disengagement where workers feel disposable rather than valued contributors to society.